Welcome to the Clark Expedition, and thanks for joining us. And come along with us as we go on a camping trip to the state of Kentucky, something we affectionately refer to as the Vice Tour, exploring bourbon, booze, and bedding. Our first night in Kentucky we spent at a Harvest Host location. We stayed at the Aridinus Brewery in Russell, Kentucky. The brewery is owned by Kristen and Justin Matthews, and it's located in a converted train depot. Their hospitality, the food, and the beers were outstanding, and we certainly would recommend it to others. Just keep in mind that as a Harvest Host, you're right next to active train tracks and get noisy at different times during the night. The next morning, we were able to drive over to the Kentucky Horse Park just north of Lexington, Kentucky. By midday, we were able to get into our Horse Park Campground site. The sites were level, they had water, they had electric, they didn't have sewer, but they had 2 dump stations within the park. We had plenty of room at our site, and this was our base of operations for the next few days. There's much to see and do at the Kentucky Horse Park. You can easily spend a whole day here. One of the first things you will find at the Kentucky Horse Park is the bronze statue in tribute to Secretariat. Near the entrance to the horse park is the statue and burial spot of Man of War, considered the greatest thoroughbred of the 20th century. Man of War won 20 of 21 races, and his only loss came at the hands of a horse named Upset. We drove over to western Kentucky into Louisville, and the first place we stopped was Churchill Downs. We were there 1 week before the opening to the racing season at Churchill Downs, but we enjoyed seeing the iconic park. We were able to see the great architecture of the park, including the grand spires, the statue of Barbaro, and we visited the gift shop and the visitor center. While we were in Louisville, we visited Whiskey Row in downtown Louisville. And in that area is also the Louisville Slugger Factory. Driving south out of Louisville, we drove to Clermont, Kentucky to visit the Beam Distillery. The Beam Distillery is a sprawling complex that encompasses many buildings on many acres. All of the distilleries we visited offer walking tours, but we didn't do that at Jim Beam. Instead, we opted for their restaurant and gift shop. Visiting Jim Beam was an awful lot of fun, but now we were off to visit a much smaller distillery known as Willett Distillery. Willett Distillery is located in Bardstown, Kentucky. Bardstown is known to several distilleries in the area. Willett Distillery is a family-owned business, and they're not trying to compete on the same level as Jim Beam in terms of the quantity, but they do focus on their quality. They make different styles of rye whiskey and bourbon, and by taking the tour, we came to appreciate the craftsmanship that these people have in making their bourbon. The simple version of what we learned is that bourbon is an American whiskey, but it's different from other whiskeys in that it has to be at least 51% corn, and nothing can be added to the bottle to change its color or its taste. The aging of their rye whiskeys and bourbons lasts anywhere from 2 years to 10 years, and the storage silos are not climate controlled. After the tour, we headed over to the Willett Bar, which we had secured reservations months in advance, and we enjoyed the cocktails, and we also enjoyed some appetizers. Oh yes, you have to try their famous egg salad sandwich. The next day we took a break from the Bourbon Trail and headed off to watch the ponies. Keenland is an impeccable facility, and it's the home track for many of the top breeders in Kentucky. While the weather was not all that great the day we were there, we sure had an awful lot of fun. Not far from the Kentucky Horse Park and in downtown Lexington is Thoroughbred Park. There are 13 sculptures throughout the park, of which 7 are life-size sculptures of thoroughbred horses and jockeys racing to the finish line. We enjoyed visiting downtown Lexington, but now it was time to head back to our campground and take it easy for our next day. We are heading off to some more distilleries on the Bourbon Trail. The next morning, we were back on the Bourbon Trail, and our first stop was Buffalo Trace Distillery. Each distillery we visited created its own atmosphere, and Buffalo Trace was no exception. But of all of them, Buffalo Trace just screamed Kentucky. If you're going to go to a distillery, you have to participate in a tasting. Our tasting included vodka, 3 different varieties of Buffalo Trace bourbon, Buffalo cream, and believe it or not, root beer. Between the distilleries, we had the opportunity to see the beautiful Kentucky countryside, and the horse farms and the horses were something to see. Our last stop on the Bourbon Trail was Woodford Reserve Distillery in Versailles, Kentucky. Again, different from all the other distilleries, Woodford had its own unique character. Like small children visiting Disney, we didn't want it to end. Well, it was time to head home, so we packed up the truck and the trailer, and we headed east towards West Virginia, where we spent a night at a Harvest Host at Lambert's Winery in Weston, West Virginia. Another great family-owned business and Harvest Host location. We would certainly recommend it to others. Special shout out to Romeo, the Lambert's family dog, who went out of his way to make sure we felt welcome while we were there. Thanks for coming along with us. If you like the video, please make sure that you hit that like button down below. It means an awful lot to us.